Hi, I'm Adam Greenberg, reporter with SC Magazine, here with Michael Shaulov, CEO of Lacoon Mobile Security. Me and Michael were talking about a new Android exploit that Lacoon analyzed recently. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So basically, the exploit that we've researched is an exploit which allows to gain root privileges on the Android device. What that basically means is that any application, if it basically takes that exploit and embed it in the application, it is able to access the more privileged, gain more privileged access to the device, and basically any application can access any data from any other application and take down the concept that is called sandboxing on the Android platform.
So is this something that could be used maliciously against a user?
Yeah, so originally the way that this exploit was developed is actually not for extremely malicious purposes. It's basically, there is an ecosystem on Android of people who develop those exploits to actually allow other people to root their devices intentionally with consent. The problem is that any, I would say almost script kiddie can now take this freely available code and extract the core exploit and then embed it within a malware, and then he can redistribute that malware and use it for malicious purposes.
Now, if I downloaded that malware, what would happen to me? I mean, what's the worst thing that could happen to me?
So once the worst thing about this malware is that unlike some of the more simpler malware, this malware can take over the whole operating system, and because it has those root privileges. And once that was done, it can install rootkit or keylogger or basically steal any credentials from any other applications that you have. For corporate environments, that's actually extremely risky because in enterprises, they would usually use solutions that will encrypt some specific parts of the operating system and will segregate the enterprise data from the personal data. Now, this exploit actually allows any malware on the personal side of the device to propagate and get the encrypted data in the enterprise side of the device.
And are all versions of Android at risk that are currently available?
So not all the versions, but most of the versions. This exploit is actually applicable for, if I'm not mistaken, for any Android which is below 5.0, which is the newest version of Android. So all the versions below that version are actually vulnerable.
Now, you mentioned it being a bad thing for organizations. What should they be doing to beef up their defenses and protect against something like this?
So clearly, enterprises should have a pretty comprehensive architecture in order to be able to, first of all, to lock down the devices and make sure that the exposure is limited, but more so to have visibility and understand which of their devices are vulnerable. And also, once someone is actually downloading this kind of malicious code, they will be able to detect the exploitation and make sure that they contain the attack outside of their network. So practically, what they should actually have is some form of MDM solution or somewhere of that kind to know which users are accessing their corporate information. And on top of that, they need some kind of advanced anti-malware solution that will be able to both detect the vulnerable devices, but also to be able to pick up the exploit or the malware, and then to basically push the user or take the keys of the user from the device.
This is a popular question. Which one is more secure, iOS or Android?
Oh, that's like a $1 billion question. And of course, without doubt, currently iOS is more secure than Android. But it's not that iOS is 100% secure. We actually see issues with iOS as well. For example, a recent study that we've done with Checkpoint, and we're going to actually publish that study in the next couple of weeks. We sort of assessed the mobile devices that are connected to corporate Wi-Fi in clearly big enterprises, and what we've detected is that 2 to 3 devices out of every 1,000 are infected with what we call surveillance software, which is the most aggressive type of malware on mobile devices. This is something which basically is capable of capturing keylogging and eavesdropping on microphone, gets the calendar and all that stuff. And just to give you some numbers, 40% of the infected devices were actually iOS. So you can see that there is a reasonable exposure over there, which is clearly highly targeted.
So it doesn't really matter whether you're using an Android device or an iOS device. If you're going to be targeted, you're going to be targeted, right?
Yeah, I would say that, of course, for the fraud, for the cyber criminals who are interested in fraud, they clearly go after the Android devices because it's easier for them and they're measuring ROI. And for people who are for the more targeted attacks, the cyber criminals, they really need to own the specific target. They're going after some individual or after a specific corporation. And then they really need to sort of hack the device that they're targeting. Of course, it's a little bit harder for them to hack an iOS, but still it's feasible.
I'm Adam Greenberg, reporter with SC Magazine, here with Michael Shaulov, CEO of Lacoon Mobile Security. Thank you so much for tuning in.